Everyone, remain calm.
Yeah, that's how it always starts. And later there's running and screaming.
Somebody talk to me! What is happening?
Welcome to Jurassic World.
You're listening to the Jurassic Park Podcast.
You want to consult here or in my bungalow? Hold on to your butts.
Well, we're back.
Hello and welcome to the 59th episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jost, and we are here to discuss all things Jurassic Park. In this episode, we have some news and a great chat with photographer and theme park correspondent Chris Lanam, where we take a deep look into various theme park elements of the original park in Jurassic Park. Chris and I will be entering a new segment this week called Main Street, which will be solely used for chatting about theme parks. I'm really excited to debut it here today in this episode with Chris. This past week, I actually had the chance to watch Jurassic Park in theaters again, and let me tell you, it's absolutely brilliant, if you didn't need me to tell you that already. I've seen it a few times in theaters now, and of course, hundreds of times at home, and the film just never gets old for me. If you ever come across JP in theaters, don't hesitate, go. It's a very different experience than watching it from your couch. Trust me, you won't regret paying to see that movie again. So why don't we start things off with a bit of Jurassic news from around the world.
18 minutes and your company catches up on 10 years of research.
Access rate program. Access new security.
These pictures were taken in hospital in Costa Rica 48 hours ago.
I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but look.
Boy, we hate being right all the time.
But today, I guarantee it.
Last week in the news, I mentioned that the first US date popped up for the Jurassic Park In Concert series. Well, now we have the actual North American premiere date. On November 13th in Nashville, Tennessee at the Schermerhorn Symphony Center, Jurassic Park will hit the big screen with an orchestra at 7 p.m. So the lucky ones in the States are now those JP fans in Nashville. Only one showing has been announced for Nashville so far, but it seems like more and more dates are being announced, so stay tuned for more release dates. Tickets go on sale for the Nashville show this Friday, July 22nd, so head to the link in our show notes to purchase your tickets. So, you recognize these noises, right? But what if those noises sounded more like this? Well, a study coming out of the University of Texas says dinosaurs may have had even more in common with birds. Many birds today use a closed-mouth type of vocalization for mating rituals and other situations. So since birds are direct descendants of dinosaurs, this type of vocalization makes sense for dinosaurs as well. So what do you think? Would the Jurassic series be as good if the dinosaurs sounded like this? Find a link to the article in our show notes. In an interesting development over on Twitter, thanks to Mirror Images for the heads up on this, the Jurassic Park official Twitter just went through some changes. Previously, the handle @JurassicPark held everything, including all the promotion for Jurassic World. Well, now it looks like @JurassicPark merged the tweets onto a new account, @JurassicWorld, but it also reset the original handle @JurassicPark so it starts fresh. Why? Not sure yet. Both accounts are verified so we can trust them. But what could this mean for future social media interaction for the Jurassic series? Well, I'm sure we'll find out soon. In the meantime, head over to both Twitter accounts to get a better look. I'll include the handles in our show notes.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
You're hearing this?
Make sure to visit JurassicParkPodcast.com to find all our past episodes, brand new news articles, information on how to contact us, and much more. It's a great source for everything related to the podcast, and of course, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Head to JurassicParkPodcast.com and help us build a great community.
Anybody hear that?
Alright, let's head down to Main Street, maybe grab a bite to eat, get some souvenirs, and chat with Chris Lanam about Jurassic Park as an operating theme park.
Welcome to Jurassic World.
And there's no doubt our attractions will drive kids out of their minds. This park was not meant to cater only for the super rich.
What, we'll have a coupon day?
something.
You should have spent a day at the beach, get some sun.
None of these attractions are ready yet, of course. Really spectacular, spared no expense.
Enjoy the ride.
Can't you stop these things?
I'm sorry, it's kind of a ride. All major theme parks have delays. Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down and pirates don't eat the tourists.
Sorry, folks. Ride's closed. Come on, guys. I just work here.
So this week I'm here with Chris Lanam, who you heard back in episode 35. We've waited way too long to get you back here, dude. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going good.
Nice. I know it's been a while, but we've both been busy, and sometimes there's not a ton to talk about with theme parks because in real life we don't get a lot of updates in terms of what we have in Orlando and other places. So there's really not too much to talk about. But today, I think we should talk about like the theme park aspects of the original Jurassic Park, and did that park have what it takes to succeed, or was it going to fail anyway? I don't really know. I mean, I know you've got a lot of insight into what goes on behind the scenes in theme parks, so I figured it was great, and we got to get you on here to talk about this.
Yeah. First off, I mean, would it work? I think no. Right off the bat, I don't know of any person, lawyer or otherwise, that would look at this and be like, yeah, let's make dinosaurs and make it a thing. So I just no.
I don't know. I mean, in first glance, you might say that, but I think when you see these things up close, like I guess kind of like what happened with Gennaro, like he seemed like he was not into it. But then once he saw it, he had this little twinkle in his eyes, and he thought about all the money he could make. So there is that aspect.
Yeah, but still, I don't know. I mean, yeah, if I was Gennaro, I would have been like, okay, yeah, they've done it. But then at the same time,
still
I have
a bad
to go
idea.
with I still have to go with the Ian Malcolm route. And like, yeah, we did it. Should we? I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I broke down as much as I could about, like, for instance, I kind of thought of it as if I was going to take a trip to Jurassic Park. What aspects would I look for? What would I like to see? How would I get to place? And because I kind of compared it to like a trip to Disney World for me, because I come from New Jersey, so I have to fly there, and then once I get to the airport, I get picked up by the Magical Express, which then takes you to the park or to the hotel, and you check in and all that stuff. Then you get to the parks, and then there's all the aspects of getting around from park to park and all that different stuff. So I thought, why don't we look at Jurassic Park in those terms? If the movie events never happened, if Nedry didn't take down the park, we have to assume it would have went through. So what would have happened, I guess, in that case?
Yeah, well, I mean, since we only had like the one park, I mean, yeah, we could still have the Magical Express, whatever, as it were. So yeah, I mean, with it being on the island, I know we're going to talk about this one later on, but I think using the boats, the transportation from like the mainland to the islands, like they did in Jurassic World, I think something like that would definitely work. And then since it's really only one park, I mean, getting around to around it was a pretty big deal. So I think the idea of the monorail, going to the different sections of the park. Let's say there's like 4 or 5 different sections, so they could just have this all-encompassing monorail system that goes around to each of the sections of the park. Just drop it off and then pick it up later on to go to the next one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot at this park already, what we saw, but I think it's missing a ton of things that you need for a theme park.
Yeah.
Actually, before we get too far, I know you explained it last time we did the episode 35. We talked about the Universal Studios and their Jurassic Park down there in Islands of Adventure. So just tell everybody again, like, kind of what's your history with theme parks?
Oh, yeah. So I basically worked at Disney for like 8 years, roughly. So I was working at, at the time it was Disney's MGM Studios, and now it's, Hollywood Studios, and then from here we don't know what. But so, yeah, so I, working in attractions and everything, so I was working like Rock and Roller Coaster. So, I've got the experience as far as like how rides are supposed to work, but of course you've always got that situation where something may go wrong, something is going to, something may, cause a glitch in the system and then have the issues pop up. So, you got to look at it from that way. And then that kind of goes into the idea of, like the, situation where, the tour breaks down and then, the fences go down and then from there. But, so with like the park, the area for Islands of Adventure and all, you've got the river adventure ride, which, and even something like that could possibly happen where it's like you've got the, I forgot what that dinosaur is that pops out of the water. I mean, that's something that could have, that could easily happen if, if something were to just like, what is this, thing coming towards me and then knocks you off course or something. So I would assume that they would have a contingency plan in place for that because, you wouldn't want it to go into a building with, raptors escaping and everything. But,
Yeah, but they had their track, their single track and everything, but I feel like they needed much more in terms of structure and stuff like that.
Right.
Let's talk about real theme parks for a second before we dive into this again. Parks like Disneyland, Disney World, Universal, they all have issues. And take Orlando for instance. It's basically narrow it down to Disney World. Disney World is essentially a city. It's giant, and I think I looked it up. It's something like 40 square miles, which is the size of, I guess, San Francisco. There's somewhere around 62,000 people that are employed there. So, and then you're talking about all the guests. So things are bound to happen. Things go wrong, and then you talk about the attractions themselves. Breakdowns and just stuff in the parks. So you're talking about a city. Things happen in cities, and car accidents and other deaths and stuff like that. But that's what I'm talking about here. So we're talking about one tiny island versus a citywide theme park or something like that. So both, I think, have the capacity for things to go wrong. And even if it wasn't dinosaur outbreaks and the worst of the worst, I think this park was doomed to fail, from the start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and I know, looking at it from like the movie perspective, there really wasn't that much, that we saw. I mean, granted that, that wouldn't really play into the storyline for it, but I mean, we never really saw if there was like, I don't know, like a Publix or something like that people could go to if they're going to be staying like extended periods of time. Did they have like hotels on the island originally? Was that part of the plan, or was that something that came about later on for like Jurassic World? It's like, it's tough to really, know what the plan was originally, because really the only thing we saw was like the visitor center and then this e-ticket attraction, which was, of course, was the tour, but there wasn't any indication of any other rides or anything like that were being worked on. So is it like, are we going to this island for like a day, and then we're done, or are we staying, planning like a 2-day trip or what? So.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, you do get little tidbits of information in the background and different things like that. Like, they do mention the Jungle River cruise. So that's down the line. It's not just yet. There's also, so we do have the island tour in the main vehicles. You have the lab tour, which is, it's not much. It's basically Carousel of Progress in Tomorrowland. So you're just going around in a circle around the labs and that video screen and all that stuff. So that's I guess you can qualify that as another tour.
That's like a D ticket. So.
Yeah, and if you count the, there's other, material like the Telltale video game, which is not really considered canon.
Yeah.
But in that game, in a different section of the park, there's a roller coaster. I think it's called Bone Shaker. There's a marine facility with actually a Mosasaurus in there. Mm-hmm. I think maybe I don't know if it was in the game or not, or the book or whatever. But they talked about the aviary and stuff like that. So there's all these aspects that we just didn't get to see, and whether we can consider them canon or not, I don't know. So for the most part, I guess we just have to stick to what we saw, and that's just those the island, the vehicle tour, the lab tour, and possibly a Jungle River cruise down the line.
Yeah.
So, actually, I want to play one little clip. Everybody's heard it before, but it kind of introduces what we were just talking about and the possibility of getting guests. So, take a listen.
None of these attractions are ready yet, of course, but the park will open with the basic tour you're about to take.
And then other rides will come online 6 or 12 months after that. Absolutely spectacular designs, spared no expense.
And we can charge anything we want, $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and people will pay it. And then there's the merchandise. I can personally...
Donald, this park was not built to cater only for the super rich. Everyone in the world has the right to enjoy these animals.
Sure, they will. What, we'll have a coupon day or something.
So yeah, I just cut that off. But it's hilarious, and the whole coupon day thing. And Donald's talking about charging $2,000 to $10,000 a day. That's kind of ridiculous, and I don't know anybody that can afford that aside from the super rich.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the one thing is that, you kind of look at it today where a lot of people are talking, especially with like Disney. I mean, compared to what it used to be. I mean, back in, in the 70s when it was like 25 cents to get in, and now it's like people are saving like 5 and 6 years just to, afford, like a family of 4 for like one day. So it has, it's definitely changed where it almost seems like it's being catered for the super rich. But
that they're kind of focusing on a single group, and it's basically like over $100 a day per park, unless you're doing packages and different things. Mm-hmm. But it's a very expensive, trip. And if you're going to talk about bringing people all the way to an island, so like you said before, you got to get them there via a boat probably, because I don't think they're going to take every small group of maybe 4 people to, via a helicopter and then with Jeeps. But who knows? I don't know how they really intended on it. I think the East Dock was for like the cargo and the workers and stuff like that. Yeah. And the North Dock, there was actually another one. I think that was for the visitors. But like we said, we don't really know too much. So we assume a cruise ship of some sort or a little, what do you call it? Just a smaller boat, ferry.
Yeah.
But then what is it? So do we have those Jeeps? Are those Jeeps taking everybody around? We don't have the monorail yet, so we don't really know what to expect. So the infrastructure is not there yet, I don't think. Right. And obviously the park wasn't opening. They like Hammond said in that clip, 6 to 12 months down the line, but they fully intended to open this park with just one attraction.
Yeah,
so,
and that's I mean that would have said something a lot for just for that and everything because. I mean, I'll be completely honest. Like, if I have the option of, walking to the visitor center, it's like, oh, hey, it's like 2 miles. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I have no problem walking through that, through that open field where they have all the dinosaurs and they first, when they first introduce it, go for it. Let me walk in there. That's fine. But
it's like, all right, get off the boat now. Walk 2 miles that way.
Yeah, I mean, you basically do when you go to Magic Kingdom, anyways.
Yeah.
You're walking in I walk in from the parking lot. I'm not waiting on the trams, but
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's what they would have. They would have like some sort of relatively long tram that can hold maybe like 100 people per load. And then, just take them along that route that they went through on that through that field to, get a glimpse of the dinosaurs right off the bat. But
maybe they would upgrade their vehicles, kind of like the ones in Jurassic World, like the bigger, like the safari trucks, and just take loads of people through the park. That would be a really cool aspect if they had done that. But we don't know. So the transportation aspect is a little vague, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So. And like I said, the infrastructure is not there. So say, for instance, you get off the boat and they drive you to the visitor center, I would assume, where you get set up and everything. There's really nothing even at the visitor center. There's no walkways. There's no sidewalks. There's how do you get there aside from a Jeep running over the track for the tour vehicle and just parking in front of the visitor center? And, even at that, there was no... like kiosks or anything in the visitor center, and I know they were still doing the construction, but we have to assume they were opening, in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, as far as so let's say that they have like a hotel there that that again we don't know about. Where first off, but I mean, I would assume that with it being the visitor center and everything, they would have obviously like a check-in, and I would assume they would have like a self check-in because that seems to be the thing these days.
Yeah.
But then, it's like, where do we go from here? Because we've got this one attraction that's probably leaving, every on the hour and then 30 minutes, something like that. So it's like, do we waste time in like the food court, or do we waste time, buying all of this merchandise that is astronomically priced? So
there was a very small gift shop. There was the restaurant, which I don't know if it was a buffet style or they served you, because it looked like it could have been both. There was like the buffet was out for some reason. Nobody knows why. It was already out when the kids got back. But,
they probably planning like a VIP.
I guess,
like that. I don't know, but but
there's not much even in the visitor center. There's like the lobby, the restaurant, gift shop, and then you have the lab tour. So I have to assume that is one of the first things that you do. So you come to this island, and then you get introduced into how these things are made. So you get in the seats and you sit there and watch the video.
Yeah. And, that's another thing, is that now that I think about it, I'm kind of envisioning like the visitor center that they have at Islands of Adventure. That's what you've got at the park, on the actual island. It's just, it's the visitor center. You walk in, you see all of that going on. And then, they've, at the one at Islands of Adventure, they have different areas that you can kind of like interact with and kind of learn more about, like the DNA sequences, and kind of seeing like the eggs being moved around, things like that. So sure, you can have that there and kind of have it like a waiting area before you go out on like the main tour, or on the the rotating ride, whatever that ride's going to be called. But
well, the thing is, in a theme park, you have to look at the capacity issues. And I don't really know how many people they intended to bring to this park, because we only saw 2 tour vehicles, possibly 2 Jeeps, and a helicopter. So I would assume that there's going to be a lot of people, unless they are charging $10,000 a day and they only do small groups.
Right.
But there needs to be some sort of capacity, so you have to force people to go different places, and we don't really see too many places. And actually, I want to break it down for a second and talk about how rude of guests, Grant, Ellie, and Malcolm were at Jurassic Park, because the first thing they do is they get and they sit in this lab tour, and they break the ride. They just literally just push the harnesses up and get up and walk wherever they feel like. So I don't know if it's just bad, like lap bars or whatever they had on this vehicle, but that's kind of rude.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to look at it that I don't think John expected them to actually act like 2-year-olds, but I mean, come on,
can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that happen before. I've seen it happen plenty of times.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you see that like from time to time?
From time to time, I hate to say it, but those people actually do exist, where it's like they'll try to jump off the ride and everything. I mean, I've known it to happen at like at a Pirates of the Caribbean. I've seen people try to do stupid stuff at one of the other rides that I worked at and everything, and I'm just like, don't. It's simple. It's like, don't be stupid. It's like they're here for a reason, but I mean, I know they're adults, but if you got a kid that manages to squeeze out of one of those things, if it's kind of like Carousel of Progress, where it goes from section to section, you end up getting trapped in one of those things. So, but I mean,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
This is all part of the problem. Like, they just didn't think. I don't think so. You're able to break through and just go wherever you want, and it's not the only time they did it in the movie. So you have that lab tour, and actually, speaking of Disney too, I think I read in the past few months somebody actually did that on what was it, a Test Track. I guess the ride, paused or stopped or whatever, and they decided they wanted to get out and just pushed the lap bar up, or got out, I guess, slid out, and then walked out the side door or something, and just left.
Right, well, I mean, yeah, because it's seat belts and everything that's on there.
Yeah, that's true.
But still, I mean, I don't think I heard about that, but it doesn't surprise me in the least that happened.
Yeah, and you have that good story of the person who went to go get a hat or something, right?
Oh, with that, I mean, anyone can look at it. It's on YouTube. It's like something like a guy grabs hat from Jurassic Park water ride, and I mean, it's this guy that, like, I guess lost his hat at the bottom of the drop, and just decided to walk over to the viewing area, jump in the water, go across the track, and grab his hat, and then So, I mean, luckily, because I know in the video and everything, it shows like 2 seconds later, like a vehicle dropping down, and that's not going to happen because I'm sure that part of the track has sensors all over the place, and of course they've got video cameras everywhere. So, you know, the ride would have been stopped. Nothing would have ever gone down that drop. But you know, in the event that he had jumped in there while one was going down the ramp, then you know
that's bad news.
No more person because there's no way to stop that thing. I guess I don't know if they have like like emergency brakes on that drop, but I would assume not. So
I don't know.
You know,
and if they did, that would seriously hurt the people on the vehicle too. Because you all of a sudden jerk forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into complete details and everything, but I've been stopped on Rock and Roller Coaster. So you know how you go from, I'm going to be honest, at 0 to 58 in 2.8 seconds. Reverse that and just go in 1 second. So I went from 58 to 0 in 1 second. That's not fun.
God,
that's not fun. So you know, imagine something like that happening, and it's just. So there's always contingencies in place, but still, it's just, it's like I said earlier, don't be stupid.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You got to plan for stupidity. And in your case, the ride you've worked on, there's all kinds of safety precautions, right? Like what are some of the things, like precautions and things that you guys have to go through?
Oh, I mean, like checking everything. So, with like most roller coasters and everything, you've got to go through the different areas to make sure that the brakes are working properly for it. All the harnesses are working properly and everything like that. So, because you don't want one to just like randomly open on itself. But so I mean, without going into too much detail, because I don't want to give away certain things, but there's always certain things that are in place to make sure that the vehicles are going from where they should be, from like point A to point B with no issues. And if there is, then something's going to trigger like, hey, look at this, something's not right here. What do we do about it? So, so and that's tie that into the tour and all. It's like when they opened up the doors, what happens? The vehicles automatically stop. So, that was a contingency that they had in place. I mean, the locking mechanism should have been working, but
that's absurd.
I don't think they expected, like a couple of adults, that are pretty intelligent to just be like, there's a dinosaur out there. We're going to jump out of the car now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we have to forgive them slightly because, like we keep saying, the park was not open and it was not done. So they didn't put the locking mechanisms on yet. But in the way it seems, it almost seems like they weren't going to do it because of the way, that he brought it up that we need these locking mechanisms on the vehicle doors. Like I told you, you should have these. So it kind of had this aspect as if like they weren't going to do it. So I don't know if they're the stupid ones in this whole thing. I think they are because they just did it too quickly.
That makes sense. Yeah. So it seems like they almost kind of cut corners on certain things because. I mean, you've got all these electric fences and everything with the, with like the carnivores, but you don't really expect a Triceratops to, go postal or anything. Of course, it's not to say that it's not to say that it couldn't happen, but it's less likely to happen. So, what do we need, locking doors for? So.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of safety checks, it seemed like. The tour vehicles had the monitors inside. They obviously the video cameras that you can knock on and breathe on.
Yep.
So they had that stuff, but they just didn't fully implement everything yet. And if we go back to that I kind of tie it in with the tour as well, but the first tour of the lab, let's talk about John Hammond for a second because he has to be at every one of these tours. How good is that when the creator, the man behind everything? So can you imagine in Disney's case, Bob Iger, it goes to the park and has to voice the attraction every time?
Well, first off, I don't wish that on anybody. I'm sorry.
That's how absurd it is,
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, yeah, because that is a weird thing because it's like the way they have it set up and everything. At that point, you would need actors that look like John Hammond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd have to film a new segment, that's all.
Exactly. Or, in this case with like the new King Kong thing that just opened up at Universal, they've got 5 different characters, so you could have like a lab technician, you could have a, like a Muldoon, type character, there to talk about it. You've got these different options just in case you don't want to have like, John every single time. But
yeah, it's impractical because they had these different aspects. So John has to stand there, do the routine, and then I guess go along the entire tour with them. If that's the plan, I don't know since they cut it short.
Yeah, and this is another thing is that like you look at it, what if something happens where let's say that we have an actor and the John that's on the screen is like, John, that hurt. Well, how did that hurt? Because there's no one here. You kind of look at it. Well, the way that I look at it and everything is that you look at like Rock and Roller Coaster where you have Joe Perry. It's like Christine Grandma Black Les Paul. Originally, that area actually had a cast member in there that was working for the record company that would actually turn to the screen, acknowledge him, grab an actual Les Paul from that they let the attraction borrow, and then take it in the back, and then you would actually see one of the road crew members take it out to the car. But now it's just like, all right, where's this Chris guy? Is he because they never use the position anymore. So
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, maybe like on holidays when it's like really busy and they have the staffing for it, but for the most part and everything. That's the reason why it's like whenever you look at it, he's like, who are you talking to? There's no one in there. So, that would be another thing. It's like, what are we going to do with that?
Yeah, so like you said, John's saying this all to himself. Ooh, John, that hurt. And he's like, hello, John. Hello, John. Like, just all to himself.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's not that actual live actor there to initiate the whole, pinprick thing to get the DNA going.
Yeah, it's just impractical. And then moving on to the actual island tour, I don't know, I guess he didn't have to be there, but Hammond was there saying the voice you are hearing is Richard Kiley.
Yeah.
So somebody could have done it because obviously it was a voice manipulator of some sort. But to actually have somebody in a position in the control center, I guess, doing that spiel every time is a little impractical.
Yeah, well, I think probably of that spiel, the voice you're now hearing thing, I'm pretty sure they probably would have put that on like a recording loop. I think they
so.
Were, yeah, well, I mean, for now and everything, again, we've got adults that are acting like children and running off. But I mean, John was so eccentric as it was that, he would be someone that would actually, put his own voice in there just to, hear himself be heard over the stuff that he's got going on.
Well, he did say, I have to be here for the birth of every single creature in this park, so...
Good luck on that.
Yeah, exactly. So I could hear him saying that same thing. Like, I have to be for every lab tour, every island tour. I have to do it.
Yeah.
This is my job. The construction's done. Everything's done. I already paid for everything. Let me at least do this.
Yeah. I think he just started when he was bored. So
yeah. I mean, I guess if you take like Walt Disney, for instance, would he have done something like that? Would he have stood in an attraction and done that? Possibly.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, because they always talk about stories how Walt was like, even after the park had opened, what was he doing? He was walking around the parks on like a daily basis, making sure that everything was working. So John totally would do something like that. Yeah. It's just the problem is that he can't be in everywhere at the same place, at the same time type thing. So I'm sure he would probably end up having some sort of, like team, something like that could, be around in the different areas of the park. But yeah,
Yeah. So as we talk about Walt Disney for a second, why don't we drop over to Disneyland? Because in the movie, they're having issues and things are not working right. And John even mentions that Disneyland had issues when it opened in 1955, So prompting, Malcolm to say his famous line with Pirates of the Caribbean. So talking about Disneyland, let's bring up the first few weeks of that park. And I don't know if you're probably familiar with it, but maybe everybody else is not. There was a lot of issues with the opening of that park.
There was a lot of issues on opening day.
Yes. Yeah, first day and the first few weeks alone, reading up on it, it sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Well, I mean, first off, the biggest thing that they had problems with was people that were, forfeiting the tickets and everything, like the invitations to it. So, there were a lot of people there that weren't supposed to be there. But then you look at the fact that Main Street, Main Street and all that stuff, like the asphalt, it was so hot it started melting. So you've got you've got everyone, everyone that's working on like the crew team trying to run out into the street to grab all of like these these high heels from the women that are getting stuck in the asphalt because it's starting to melt. So
yeah, talk about a high heel like controversy.
Yeah, I try to run in that, but
that's serious stuff. Yeah, like people. This is like you're ruining people's first day at a park, which it could be disastrous. But it turned out to be okay.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, it's like every single ride could have broken down, and
basically
people still would have seen it. Yeah, well, I mean, people still would have seen it as a complete success because it was Walt Disney doing something. So. And, at that point, it kind of seems to me, it's like at that time, they couldn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I guess, you're right, yeah.
But we look at something with like Jurassic Park where it's something that's brand new. Sure, it's live dinosaurs, but had that happened with, with Jurassic Park, they'd probably still be doing, some cleanup from it, like public relations, for a good long while for it.
Yeah. Well, back in Disneyland, like you said, there was the melting asphalt, there was counterfeit tickets, there was a lot of ride closures. There was a stagecoach ride that apparently kept flipping because of the capacity, so they ended up closing that. I read that a tiger and a panther broke out of a parade, so that sounds a little crazy. The ride Autopia there was no track initially, so all the cars were wrecked, like basically in the first week.
Oh, that makes sense.
They had a riverboat that kind of sunk a little bit. There was gas leaks, and they had to decide between their plumbing issues, whether they were going to feed water fountains or use toilets. They also ran out of food and drinks, so there was a lot of issues. So John maybe is not comparing it correctly, but he is making a decent comparison, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean. And that's true. I mean, of course, at that point, everything when he says that line, it's like everything's gone, gone in the handbasket. But
things are already really bad.
Yeah. So, but I mean, had that happened to to Jurassic Park and everything, you're stuck on an island, which I don't know. I haven't done the math. I don't know how long it would take to get from let's say from like Costa Rica to the island. But I mean, you could be looking at some pretty potential, disastrous situations where it's like, okay, all the food's gone, all of the the plumbing is having issues and everything. So what do we do now? You're going to have to try to get people off the island somehow, but or fix it however you can. But again, public relations nightmare waiting to happen.
Yeah, actually, talking about Costa Rica, I looked up the weather patterns and different stuff like that. And I think it would be good to compare it to Florida, because John did say, like, why didn't I build in Orlando? He makes that little passing comment.
Yep.
So you're very close, obviously. You are in Florida, very close to the parks. So you are right in there with the weather. How is it? Obviously, these parks function perfectly fine.
Sure.
But you come into contact with some pretty bad weather.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was working at Disney during the Hurricane Charlie.
Oh, okay.
And that was fun. I mean, because they basically made the decision almost a day in advance that the park's just, it's like we're not opening because it's it's going to be too dangerous. So I think that would have to be something that they would definitely want to take into consideration, especially being on the island. It's like, okay, we've got this hurricane that's coming towards us. We know it's going to do a bit of damage and everything. What do we do? Of course, you've got all the people that are staying at the hotels at Disney at that point. But and they were doing the best they could to keep, like the kids entertained and have things that people could do that were safe while the storm was hitting. And I think they would have to do something the same way with, at Jurassic Park. Maybe even keep like the visitor center open, depending on how close it was to the hotel, if there is one.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big thing because, I know when you were down here, we didn't really have that big of a change in weather, but man, during the summer here, we talk about the 3 o'clock storms, and just because we say 3 o'clock, it doesn't necessarily mean it's, it won't start at, like 11 a.m. So it's always something that's changing. It happens.
Yeah.
It's always consistently changing and everything, but we've had some really bad storms over the past couple of days, and just, I see a lot of people at the parks that just aren't prepared for it. So I think that's another thing that the park would have to take into consideration, especially being on an island, is, where are we going to put these people while they're at the park or on the tour, not anywhere near the visitor center where we can get them to safety. So I would assume that maybe for like the tour, they would have like an off branch, something like that they could take them to and get them into, like a building that's able to withstand like the hurricane force winds, things like that. So
yeah, you'd hope. I mean,
they better.
As far as we know, I'm not sure, but there. I guess there's a bunker in the visitor center they went into. But I don't think that's for guests, so that's a problem there. But
and that's the thing, is that like in the event that something happens at the park where at Disney, if there's like a tornado that hits or something like that, if it ends up being that situation, they do have plans in place where they can get people to safety. So I would think that that Jurassic Park would have something. Yeah, even taking them into that when they're coming into the T-Rex paddock. It seems like they're coming in from a
tunnel,
a tunnel. The tunnel. So they could easily just back the cars into that. At least give some sort of safety for it.
That's their only plan. They're like, well, we don't have any infrastructure, but we'll back them into this tunnel.
Sure. Yeah.
It works.
It works. Why not? So.
I mean, the tour, it had all kinds of problems to begin with, so the rain is the least of their worries, I guess. But I was looking up what the weather is down there. I looked up Costa Rica because it's off, Costa Rica, those islands, apparently. So it actually is rarely affected by hurricanes. Now, there is a rainy season, which is apparently from May to November, but it doesn't sound too bad. I mean, personally, I don't know, I've never been there, but it doesn't really even sound as frequent or as probable as Florida. And Florida is right in line for hurricane season, which is a pretty long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest here and everything. We never experience winter. We actually have summer for about 7 months out of the year, and then the rest of it is just hurricane season. So there's no in between, honestly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've never been to Costa Rica myself either, so I don't know. I mean, sure, they probably get like the heavy rains that last for 10-15 minutes and then it's over with. But what are you going to do? Are you going to run for the hills? Go back to your hotel, or just wait it out and go about your day? So,
well, there's also the issue of the no-show dinosaurs and stuff like that. So if you're out there stuck in the rain, are you really going to see all these dinosaurs? I mean, I guess that is when the T-Rex came out, so I guess it worked in their favor for that point. But I don't know about the other dinosaurs.
I don't know if they're going to put him in like a top hat with an umbrella and have him tap dancing out. I don't know. That's the thing, is that again, we're dealing with creatures that that we haven't seen in, again, 65 million years. What do they do? I mean, are they going to be the ones that are actually like, whatever, or are they going to run and find cover? So I guess you could kind of look at it from like Animal Kingdom's standpoint. It's like, I've seen it plenty of times where I've gotten stuck on the Kilimanjaro safari, where some of the animals are like, it's water. And then there's other ones that are just like, nope, I'm done with this. I'm going away. I'm going to go find a place to hide. So, I think it would be kind of like a hit and miss, just continue the tour and then maybe, give them like a re-entry pass or something like that if they didn't see anything. So, because they've got ways of monitoring where, if the dinosaurs are there or not, obviously. I mean, so if you don't see anything, great, do some sort of recovery on it. It's like, all right, so come back when it's not raining and everything, and then we'll get you in again, something like that.
Well, also you have the problem of the Rex doesn't want to be fed; it wants to hunt, and that goat did stand there for quite a while. It just stood there.
Deserved it, so didn't even try to run or anything. He just deserved it.
Well, he was chained up. What is he going to do? He couldn't do anything. So but he
could have got.
I guess he could have wrangled his way out.
Yeah. That chain wasn't holding him back, so he just gave up. So
now, if we talk about park problems, which we have been basically this whole time, we have guests breaking out of tour vehicles now. They're in the vehicle. The locking mechanisms obviously aren't doing anything, and they basically just stroll their way into a Triceratops paddock. So it had to have been easy to get in there. so they just like got through the fence, which should have been electrified at that moment. If the Triceratops paddock had electrified fence, maybe not the giant tall ones, but a smaller one, I guess. But I don't know how they got in there. But that's a problem.
Well, I was going to say that's the thing is that, I mean, in the movie we never see like a smaller fence in the Triceratops area. So are these things like free roaming? Kind of like like in Africa, because it's like it's they're not really that dangerous. Unless you take them off somehow. But yeah, I mean, again, I know we talk about having these big giant fences and everything that have the lights on them, that have the signs, 10,000 volts. There's going to be that one person that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to poke it with a stick. So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they would have some sort of, contingency plan in place where, maybe have the fences up just a little bit higher, beyond what a typical person would be able to jump up and get. Mm-hmm. But, well, because that wouldn't, then I guess it would work for like the T-Rex. But if you're talking about like a Triceratops, if you have it, too high and everything, you won't be able to see them. So, I really don't know how they would be able to pull that off. Because again, if you provoke something, good enough, then it will charge. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's something I don't know. Actually, maybe you can fill me in here. When it comes to the Kilimanjaro safaris at Disney, is there anything separating you between animals? There's rhinoceros in there, right?
Yeah.
So is there anything separating you?
No. I mean, that's the reason why they have the vehicles up so high and everything. So that way, just in the event that one of them, I think it's because they have a family of white rhinos, I believe, that are free roaming. And I've never heard of one like getting provoked and charging the vehicles, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's happened though. But no, there's nothing that's keeping you from them. They have different ways of keeping the animals from getting into different enclosures, things like that. But no, I mean, you could stick your hand out if you want and touch it. I mean, it'd be a stupid idea, but
oh yeah,
so
yeah. I got as close to Jurassic Park as possible when I went to Africa last year around this time, actually. Mm-hmm. And we had, big tour vehicles. They weren't like enclosed, really. It was an open air vehicle. It was kind of a tiered vehicle, so you could have a good view no matter what spot you're sitting in.
Sure.
And we got right up and close with all these animals. And I'm talking about, rhinoceros, lions. Mm-hmm. There was what was it? I don't know, all kinds of different variations coming very close to your vehicle. And one of them passed right underneath us, and you're really terrified in that moment. You're like, any moment this thing could jump up and attack. Yep. So, and then you have to worry, like you said about, rhino just, gets angry and it wants to charge. So you gotta be careful about all that stuff, but it's terrifying too. You're in that situation.
And I think, I mean, in your situation when you were there in Africa, I think it's a lot different. Sure, they're going to have contingencies in place where if like a lion decides to attack a vehicle or something, they've got something there. But
just
that's
one rifle. That was it. That was the contingency plan.
Well, I mean, you look at Disney and everything. They've got the lions, they're on that outcropping. But then there's a giant, separation that you can't really see. It's there and everything. So but then there's also a couple of other things that they have in place just in the event that one of them is like, no, I'm done here, and then decides to go on tour somewhere. But so it's very unlikely that it would happen. But you've got to have these things in place, especially for like Jurassic Park. You get a gallant lioness that gets on the loose and jumps on top of the car. What are you going to do? So
yeah. I don't know if they thought that far. I just don't think they did.
No,
but it all could have happened. And if you have no locks and people can just stroll right into a Triceratops paddock, like that's not good. Mm-mm. And they were cavalier about it. They just strolled right in there. And to be honest, I don't think Grant really even knew what he saw. Because he kind of was like sat up and he's like, "What's going on over there? I see a Jeep," but he couldn't really make out too much else. Yeah. And then he got up close and he realized, what he's looking at.
Yeah, this isn't a giant rock; it's a living creature. So
yeah,
or Jeff Goldblum's chest, one of the two. I don't know.
One of the two.
Yeah, so that's definitely a thing. Is that there's always a safety precaution that's behind the safety precaution that is, has a contingency plan in place where if these two things fail, then something else should kick in, and if that third one doesn't work, then we're out of luck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like we keep saying, I think people's stupidity is the biggest problem because of the ones who do decide to get out of the vehicle in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
We see a lot of employees and stuff at Jurassic Park. There's quite a few lab technicians. There's all the guys. There's the guy like flying the helicopter, driving the jeeps. There's a lot of construction workers, and if you go all the way, actually even back to the very beginning, there's a lot of, I don't know what you'd call them, security crew. It seems like that are handling that Raptor transfer from a small container to the pen.
Yeah.
And even that Raptor pen, it's not meant to be a viewing platform of any sort. So it's just an enclosure to hold them for the time being. I think I couldn't exactly make it out. I'd have to listen very closely. But John does say something about them creating a viewing platform in the future. But yeah, there's all these little things that you have to really, really listen for because I don't know what it is. Maybe Steven Spielberg has this affinity for like having sets of people talk at once. So you're really trying to focus in on what people are saying. So over here you have Grant and Muldoon talking, but then over here you have Ellie and Hammond talking almost at similar volumes, so you don't really know who to pay attention to. So if anybody's watching, go back and watch that scene because he does say some little things. And then back in the lunchroom scene, John is talking like I played before. He's talking in the back through like the presentation. You can hear him talking about the different aspects of the park as it goes on. So you got to really pay attention to things like that to get these world-building aspects.
Yep, definitely.
But like I said, there's quite a few employees, it seems like. And one of my questions is, since we didn't see any hotels or anything, are we to assume, I guess, if you pay attention, you hear Ray Arnold kind of tell the guests, the dock, get to the dock, 1,800, I think he says like 1,800 hours or something like that. So that means that they were initially, before this storm even showed up out of nowhere, apparently.
Right, yeah.
They already had to get off the island. So is this you think this is a daily routine that they have to wake up, go to the island, then leave the island after work? So essentially it's just nobody staying there?
I hope not. I honestly, with a situation like that for that park, I would assume that even though there's not really a hotel, that maybe like crew living quarters. So you've got, let's say, because really, I'm going to look at Disney and everything. There's basically like 3 different shifts. So you got like first, second, and third shift. So maybe they do it like by the week, something like that. So you've got you have like one crew that's working, let's say like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that, and then you've got like the second group that's working on like Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, something like that. Mm-hmm. So you get done with like group 1, they ship out on the boat while group 3 is coming in, and then they just kind of rotate through. If that makes any kind of sense,
Yeah.
Because doing that on a daily basis and everything. First off, you've got a lot of people that are living on I would assume like Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of people that are shipping in that would have to do it maybe like 2 or 3 hours before their shift would start, and then so I would assume that they've got some sort of like living quarters on the island.
Hope.
Oh yeah,
doesn't seem likely, but you'd hope.
But right.
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those aspects that wasn't prepared yet, and pre-opening, they're forcing everybody to get off the island, stay in the the hotel on the on mainland.
Yeah,
but we don't really know, and I think the employee, specifically Nedry, is the problem that this park fell. First off, yes, like we've been talking about, it probably wouldn't have worked anyway. But Nedry, we're talking about one employee that took it down from the inside. So that's also a problem. There's really no checks for the employees as well. Because once he caused an issue, there was no turning back, aside from restarting everything. Not even, a key engineer in Ray Arnold couldn't fix the situation.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I mean, as fun as it is to make fun of Nedry and everything, that guy wouldn't have been able to pull it off by himself. The program or whatever it was, I think it's something that the Dogson might have given him to like load into the computer without them knowing it. Have it sitting there looking like like some sort of program that they're working on for some attraction to come on later on. Mm-hmm. But for that to happen, for just one person to bring it down, that's not something that's going to easily happen.
Yeah, you wouldn't think. I mean, in your case, is there any situations where like you had bad employees around you or in the parks, or you hear any stories like that?
Oh, I mean, really, the only things that ever come out and all that stuff is people like stealing money from the company and things like that. But I mean, I never personally heard about anything like that. But then again, that's something that would be kept under wraps just because you wouldn't want it getting out and everything like that. So. I mean, what are the headlines gonna say? Guy with butterfingers brings down, new potential park, things like that. So,
that just made me laugh so hard that my headphones flew off my head. Guy with butterfingers.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, butterfingers and Barbasol cans. So.
Yeah, where are you going with that thing? Are you going to go shave right now, Nedry? Like, I thought you were getting a soda for somebody. Like, what? You're shaving now? It's an inopportune moment to start shaving. It's a little weird.
Yeah. But so, anyways, I mean, sure. In this case, anything is possible. But if you're going to it's going to take more than just one person to bring down a park. So
yeah, and there's not a lot of checks in place and. I guess because a lot of the employees did get shipped out already. They didn't leave yet, but they were going towards the boat, which Nedry had no clue where the boat was. Apparently, like you'd think like he was there for a while, like already, and you'd think like, all right, he planned this route out, and he's not just going to rely on a sign, is he? Like, to judge where he's going.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at it and everything, it's like he's doing this weird, contortionist thing where he's starting a stopwatch and starting the program at the same time. So this guy clearly had a plan in place for at least a couple of weeks, but obviously it didn't go to plan. But still, I just, I mean, with the whole security thing, I mean, if he was, and we don't know, if he was always just like a complete idiot and always had this in mind. So, what kind of background checks are in place for that? Because, every park has background checks. So, how did he manage to get through? Was this something that they just kind of overlooked because of how good he was with computers?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's it.
Something like that. So, or was it just a money thing that was, just too good to pass up? So, because we don't really know exactly how much he was going to be getting out of this. So, I mean, for $1 million,
$1.5 million potentially at least.
Yeah,
so who knows? He probably would have had a job on the other side as well, lined up.
Yeah, exactly. So, the 1.5 million to start and everything, however much on delivery, and then hey, here's a seat on the board for you with without group, something like that. So. Yeah, I mean that would definitely bring anybody into question for it, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say what else would have happened, and if this park would have succeeded without him, taking it down. But really, I think we've looked at so many aspects of this. Is there anything else that we're missing? Do you think there's parts of this park that we're missing?
Not really. I think another thing would be again with like the fences and everything. I mean, because I know it's like it was the program that Nedry had that took it down, but you'd figure that they would have a contingency place, for that, for if one of the fences did go down for there's a power failure or something like that.
Yeah,
you gotta have more than just one fence in place for that. For something like the T-Rex or even the Raptors, something like that. So they definitely had a lot of work to do. So.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if Pirates of the Caribbean goes down, Haunted Mansion is still on. It still works. So if you can't do one ride, you go somewhere else. You go do something else. In this park, if one thing goes wrong, the whole park is screwed. Like it's just it's all terrible and it's all downhill. Like the fences go out, everything's wrong. The cars stop. There's, like you said, there's no contingency plan in place. Like there's no backups. There should be like separate backups for the fences that they're on a different circuit. They're on a different breaker completely. If somebody goes and flips the switch over here, it's not going to turn off these. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and then to bring it back online, we've got to go dancing through the forest and everything with a couple of raptors on our back too. What was that about? I mean, really? I mean, I know as far as the movie is concerned, it added the that suspense, but that's just, again, that's another thing that just doesn't make any sense for the entire park to come back online. We have to go, however,
cut through the woods,
woods, away from the visitor center. Oh, you have all that stuff right there in the command center, ready to go.
Yeah.
Whatever. Down the stairs, around the corner, take the monorail over to it. So. Anyways,
it makes no sense. And you'd think you'd have a more competent, like he seemed like he was, a big deal. Robert Muldoon. He's big deal. He's hunted, game in Africa. He's done all this stuff. But, he makes a serious mistake. And I don't know, is that a guy you want on your team? Like a guy that says clever girl and lets himself get attacked?
Done. At the same time, he's done like all of these hunts and everything, but I mean, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I don't know of that many animals that, that do hunt like that. So, because you got to remember, we're talking about a pretty intelligent creature that, that they've set up as far as the movie is concerned. So, to have that thing there, I would be like, well, this is it, because I don't know what to do. I can try to turn my gun in that split second and see if I can, maybe wound it or kill it. But that happened pretty quick.
Yeah,
so.
It's like I can turn the gun and try to shoot, or I can go out like with a sweet quote. You know, like one that people will remember.
Yeah, and then gets turned into a cover girl.
And he screams for quite a while. Like,
well, I mean, you've got a 6-foot turkey, on top of you, that probably weighs about, a few hundred pounds, and it is killing you. So
yeah, it's all, who knows? It's all weird. But if we turn the cheek and find out what's wrong with this park, I think it really narrows down to John Hammond himself. And he's a little delusional, if you ask me. Some people don't say so. I think he is quite delusional, and it narrows it down because when he says Nedry, he says Nedry was the mistake here. We should have never hired him, but it's more than that. And he says next time it'll be flawless. Next time, he's already talking about next time. In the moment that his grandchildren and Grant are out missing and people are already dead, and so he's already talking about next time.
Yeah, and this is the thing is that, like, I know a lot of people that I talk to, unfortunately, it's either that it's been so long or they never have read the book. But in the book, Hammond is a bit of a jerk, like more so than than what he is in the movie, where he's kind of this caring grandfather. Mm-hmm. In that moment when he says next time it'll be flawless, that's the Hammond that I know, from the book and everything. That's the one that I kind of wanted to see. But yeah, it's like, dude, you've got to get yourself out of this mess that you've got right now before you start thinking about the next time. So, worry about San Diego later on.
Yeah. And, yeah, exactly. That's his problem. He is too self-centered. He's just, I don't think he's fit to run a theme park. I don't think he's there yet. And he's obviously delusional. I think it's clear.
Yeah, it's the delusion of grandeur, if you want to go that way, but at the same time, like, eccentric and ready and willing to do things, kind of like Eisner was back in the 90s, with something like that. Because but that's a totally different story. But I think he was so focused on making sure that it was ready to go despite any of the flaws that were there, and then when it happened, he's like, well, I've screwed up. I'm going to try again and not worry about what's going on right now. So,
yeah, Well, as far as that goes, I think it all narrows down to him. He's the problem. Mm. He's the reason everything doesn't work. I could see him kind of being controlling in that aspect where, we don't need to worry about the door locks right now. We don't need to worry about that stuff. Let's just get this done. So I think it all falls on him. He's a bit delusional, and I don't think he really knows what he wants. So I think we've really, wrapped it up, and I don't know. There's not much more I can say about this, but I did reach out to people online, and I have one response here from Twitter. Let's take a look. Let's see. This one is from Pierce Johnson on Twitter, and he says that he's with Grant Sattler and Malcolm, and he's firmly against the park. I guess he doesn't think it's a good idea. So that's there. I have two more. Let's see, from Instagram. This one is, I believe, Chewy_AICM. It says, the only thing that sucks is that it's on an island and I'm far from here. This makes sense considering the attractions. I'd go there for sure. I'd pay up to $3,000 a week at Jurassic World, but I don't know about having an annual pass. And like I've said before, I wouldn't mind dying there. I'd take the risk.
Oof. All right.
I guess I kind of side with him there. There was a lot of people talking about the park in general, and would people, for instance, go to Jurassic World after all the events that have already happened? So after this park catastrophe, after San Diego, would people go to see dinosaurs again? And I think they would. Mm-hmm. I think people are just naturally curious, and my best interpretation of this is when some people, when you drive past a car accident, you can't help but stare. Like a lot of people, that's where rubbernecking came from. You're turning your neck, you're looking at this accident next to you, and you can't help it. You're just drawn in, and you continue driving, and then you still drive after that, and then the next accident, you'll do it again. It's just natural. So I think people would still be into this, and people would take that risk, and the chance of possibly dying in the park. So I think they're all aware of it. Yeah. But, having an annual pass at a place like this, if you're talking $2,000 to $10,000 a day, I don't think anybody's going to pay for that.
Yeah, no, yep. So, but I pulled up the Instagram thing. I think that the next one is actually going to be really good, kind of spot on for what we were talking about.
Exactly. This one perfectly underscore imperfect 87. Jurassic Park was doomed from the start. Hammond was relying on the state-of-the-art technology for the time to build the park, but had no idea the strengths and capabilities of the animals or technology. It's a big problem that there was no actual failsafe to prevent the fences from failing. The computer systems had so many errors that the fences failing was inevitable, even without the help of Nedry's tampering. Animals like Rexy and the raptors were never meant to be caged. Life finds a way. So, yeah, I think that summed up everything that we said, really. I was
basically going to say they just said in basically one paragraph what it took us an hour to do. So,
we should have this person on next time.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, no, totally. I mean, they, right there. So.
It was inevitable. It's clear, and they don't like to be caged. They don't like to be fed, and obviously the raptors were testing their limits, and they were smart. Yep. And they were trying to find the weak spots.
Yep, exactly.
So they probably would have done it no matter what. And look at that cattle thing. When they lowered it in there, that thing was torn to shreds. But eventually that thing would have learned to grab hold and then get pulled up or do something along those lines. So eventually they would have gotten out, I think. I've got this image now of that raptor just riding up on top of it. Like, just hanging on.
Yeah.
And then the technician who's like operating the crane is just literally not paying any attention. He's just like maneuvering the joystick, like I'm so tired, I want to go home.
Playing Pokemon Go. Different story. Anyways, no, okay, so. Yeah, but and honestly, you know what? Now that I think about it, that's another thing is that if the park had opened on time and nothing had gone wrong, they get into like this momentum where it's just like a muscle memory thing. It's like what happens, if the events that happened don't happen at the beginning, but later on, maybe let's say like a year into the park being open, and then it's just wait, what do we do now? Okay, hold on, I've got this. Maybe, but just in case, I'm going to run away now.
Yeah, so, exactly. I think in a park like this, people are going to abandon their posts pretty easily. Mm-hmm. And if you're in Disney or Universal, there's a lot of plans in place, and nothing too drastic will probably happen. It's going to be okay. So, you don't have to abandon your post. So in this case, if a dinosaur gets loose, everybody is in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's much, much more serious when you've got these giant creatures and lethal creatures.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you have any great tales from the theme parks that you can regale us here before we head out?
Oh, I don't know. I was kind of holding on to them for the next time when we do this for the other one. Yeah, you know. No, you know what? I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to hold on to him for next time. Just
exactly.
not to bait anybody for it, but I think it's going to work a lot better for for the next time that we do this. So
yeah, well, next time we'll probably talk about chatting about San Diego, and we'll consider doing a smaller episode for that. But we have a lot planned for the Jurassic World episode. We were going to shoot with that first, but we decided to kind of take it chronologically here. But Jurassic World has a ton of stuff and more relatable, I think, in terms of what we see today in theme parks.
Definitely, yeah, especially for that one when we talk about Jurassic World, and that being a theme park being open and having a catastrophe happen. Yeah, that's going to be the one that's going to be really exciting for me, because I've been there not for catastrophe happening, but like the attractions going down with people there and everything like that. So, but next time.
Time. So where can everybody find you online?
Oh, the usual places. Twitter, it's Indy and Marion, and then on Facebook, it's at Chris Lanam Photography, and then same thing on Flickr as well. So.
Yeah, and you recently sent some awesome pictures our way of different photos throughout Islands of Adventure, and you put our logo right on there. So that was really cool. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I will actually. I need to put those back up, so I'll probably put them on my website just in case anyone. The one that's on Facebook, in case anyone wants to look at it. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely talk again soon.
Oh, thanks for having me again.
Take it easy.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the 59th episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast. Of course, I need to thank Chris for joining me here today in our new theme park segment. He's a great source for all things related to Disney and Universal, so who better to help analyze the structure of a few fictional theme parks? You'll hear more from him again soon. Over the past week, we found one of our giveaway winners. We are still searching for iTunes user Maru TNF. We have your copy of The Good Dinosaur ready to ship out, so make sure to reach out to claim your prize before it heads to another user. You have until next week to respond. We need your confirmation by July 25th. If you want to interact with us, we do most of our work over on Twitter, at Jurassic Park Pod. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Jurassic Park Podcast, and our Instagram handle is at Jurassic Park Podcast. You can listen to us via iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Podomatic, YouTube, or wherever else podcasts are found. So make sure to subscribe to automatically get new episodes every week. If you haven't already, please give us a 5-star review in iTunes or a great review wherever you listen to the podcast. It will seriously help our rankings and make it easier for fans like you to find us. We're usually spotted commenting on the Jurassic Park subreddit as Jurassic Park Podcast. Don't forget to check out JurassicParkPodcast.com for all the links you heard here today. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us with any news stories, MP3s, segment ideas, top 5s, or comments to JurassicParkPod@gmail.com. Or you can submit questions directly on our website contact form. If you'd like to record something for the show, send it in to us and we'll feature it in an upcoming episode. If you don't have any way to record, you can give our voicemail a call and leave us a message. That number is 732-825-7763. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
Drop what you're doing and leave now.